Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ken and I am a counselor helping people who go through rock bottoms in order to get back on top of their lives and live an aligned life. And this channel is predominantly about providing a lot of content geared around helping gay men to better understand themselves and also some of the things that, challenge our community. And one of those issues that I really wanted to talk about today is male body image issues. I feel like this is a topic which is predominantly seen for women around body shaming, dysmorphia, anorexia, etc. But it's actually a very prevalent issue for men. And I think we as the gay community experience a lot of this, particularly in the way in which we all try and look as attractive as possible for one another. And it does have humongous consequences on our mental, emotional health and well-being, along with a lot of other things. So if this video is of value to you, please like and subscribe as it greatly helps me out. And I look forward to hearing your comments on this video below. Now, as a gay white man, I have definitely experienced the pressures of trying to look as athletic and as ripped as possible, or at least I feel like that has been something that I have definitely worked towards in my life. And I gotta be honest, it was a highway to despair and hell. And in hindsight, I'm glad I'm not following that rigorous journey. But to give you a bit of an insight into, I suppose, where it all came from, I used to have this belief that if I looked as muscular and as ripped as possible, it would be more attractive to guys. And because that's something that I thought I really liked, and therefore I thought, oh, well, if I look healthier and if I look more athletic, well, then surely that will look great for a lot of other guys too. And in addition to that too, having had experiences of school where I was shamed for my weight, it did make me feel like, oh, well, the answer is to become as fit as possible and to be as athletic and as fit in my pursuit of my physique, which will surely mean that I'll be accepted and that I will be loved, and I won't go through that again. So whilst those were some of the origins, and I know that's very much shared for a lot of men, straight, gay or otherwise, who have gone through similar experiences in childhood and at school where they were shamed for their weight, and they then went and thought, you know what, I'm gonna get lean or get ripped and, get into the best shape as possible. I want to share with you that the journey to getting lean is not a pleasant one. There are many things that come along the journey, including a lot of low self-esteem by comparing yourself to people who you want to look like, which is understandable because we all want to go towards a goal and never yet feeling like we're getting there because we don't know the context and backstory behind why that person is the way they look. Genetics, supplements, food, steroids, who knows? There's a variety of reasons as to why a person looks the way they are. We don't have that context and back information, so it does cause a lot of problems for us. There is definitely a lot of feelings of not being good enough and also going through the physiological stress of dieting, which does put us into a state of low energy. And along with the physiological challenges of trying to get into the good shape as possible, it's important to understand too that it's not a very sustainable journey as well too. When you are trying to get lean, it does mean that your body is also basically saying enough is enough and you need to go back to a certain state because we just can't keep up with this. Now, that's one part of the journey. And it's also one that then is combined with a lot of unsustainable thoughts and feelings, which is, oh, well, I don't want to get fat. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to look a particular way. And it does cause this yo-yo effect where if you're dieting, and in my experience, diets don't really have what I'd call long-lasting impact, it does mean that you end up going through these experiences of getting lean and then getting bigger and feeling like trash and then constantly chasing the goal physique that you want. And so in addition to that too, you're also then met with a lot of conditioning in our society about looking a particular way and never feeling like you can sustainably achieve it. So that's what it's like when you're in the journey to getting as lean or as ripped as possible. And I know that that's just my journey. A lot of other people will probably have had different experiences where they may have tried different supplements, steroids, diets, and have found it either worked well for them or it didn't. But one thing is for sure, which is a chronic feeling of never feeling good enough and never feeling like you're ever fit enough. You'll look at yourself some days in the mirror and think, oh God, I really don't like that part of me. And it starts to create a sense of zero acceptance for our bodies and for ourselves. This is such a common issue for everyone. Men, women, LGBTQIA+, doesn't matter. It is this feeling of never feeling good enough with the body that we have. And it plagues so many people in this society where we just can't accept, I have a bit of fat on my body. And you know what? It's okay to have fat on the body. And I want to just make it very clear that for a lot of people, that is going to be a very triggering statement, and that is okay because society has shunned having fat. So I guess the question now is, how does this impact the gay community and our acceptance of ourselves? Well, it doesn't. And it's one of those things where I think for many of us, we strive for an idealistic shape in order to feel like we're able to accept love and also to feel a sense of belonging with others. I think that it also explains why there is such a humongous discrepancy in body shapes from men who identify as otters, as bears, as twinks. And as a consequence, I think there is a real challenge for a lot of us to feel like we're actually even satisfied with our own bodies, because we're constantly being our own judge and jury and expecting others to do the same. So when we don't get the validation externally, we start to feel like shit because we panic and also feel like we're not good enough. And it does hurt our self-esteem as well as our will to live at times. Many men have understandable suicidal ideation over the fact that they don't feel like they're lovable. And their body image is very much a part of that, because they'll think, well, how could anybody love someone as X like me? Ugly, fat, big, whatever. It's very much an irrational feeling, and it doesn't mean that it's not valid. Many of us feel like we are just simply not lovable to anyone because of the experiences we've had growing up, and also because we continue to be met with a lot of criticism for the way we look online. Just as many people who really like the athletic types are just as interested in someone who's a bit bigger, and also shame the gym rats as much as the people who are a bit overweight. And as a consequence, there's just very zero tolerance around, especially if you're looking for someone on a platform like Grindr, where it is very particular as to who is being accepted by someone and who isn't. And as a consequence, it can really feel like you're just going through that trauma again and again and again and never feeling accepted. Now, in my opinion, and I've said this in a few videos, I do believe that the ideal body type that a lot of gay men have been hardwired for a sense of attraction has been a white athletic man. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I think everyone else may have a different template, but I do think that's what's heavily marketed. And as a consequence, we're all trying to be as attractive or up to that standard, and yet never feeling like we're good enough. So when we're all trying to look a particular way, we're also hardwired for people who are more physically attractive and think, oh, well, that's surely the kind of person that I want to be with as well. And as a consequence, we miss out on some really other important core qualities that we should be looking out for, including integrity, humility, compassion, empathy, and also whether or not this person's actually just fun to be around. Many people who focus on such a myopic goal of looking as good as possible do not actually develop an emotional core and may still be very emotionally stunted as an adult. And on that note, I want to make it very clear, if you are trying to get fitter and leaner just because you happen to feel more aligned with having a leaner body or a more athletic body, more power to you. It does not make you a narcissist. Narcissism is really this idea that you feel miserable as a human being and you constantly need validation and supply from other people in order to fill your shaky core because you don't feel lovable or accepting of yourself. I am really oversimplifying the definition of narcissism, but the point is we all have a degree of narcissism within us. A little bit's not problematic, too much, you probably want to work on that. But the point is that when we are constantly hardwired and looking for people who have a very good physical body and also fit that template that we've been growing up with or are striving towards, we then start aligning with people who may actually not be in our best interests. And that is why it is important to be mindful of this, because as human beings, we're just like animals, we do tend to favor the more attractive over the less attractive. Another thing that I want to bring up is the fact that a lot of these challenges that men face with regards to body image and body shame is largely unaddressed by a lot of men because they probably feel very insecure about talking about this. It is a very common challenge for a lot of men to not actually talk about what's bothering them. And I think that's largely due to the fact that anytime a man usually has come out and actually talked about their problems, they usually are shamed for it. Typically, body image issues are in the providence of women. And as a consequence, men don't like feeling that insecurity of being compared to a woman, which is just an unfortunate stereotype that has unfortunately been conditioned for many of us. So as a consequence, this issue has remained largely unaddressed. But I think because the gay community is exclusively men, as a consequence, I think we see it more readily for what it is. But I do think that means that for a lot of straight men, their challenges go unaddressed, but it is a very prevalent issue for all men, and I wish it was talked about more often by us. Lastly, I think one thing that I really want to stress for everyone who is watching this is the fact that Just because society has created an image of what is desirable does not actually mean it is right for your body. It is so important that as you go along this journey to figure out what actually feels right for you, and for many people it will not be what is marketed quite readily in many cities and states and towns. It is so important that if you go along a journey of looking fitter, leaner, more athletic, or even just being a bit overweight, which is, by the way, like an overweight standard, I would say it has to feel right for you. I think that is the key thing. It is not for someone else to judge you for the shape that you have. It is entirely up to you. And getting to that place of acceptance with what feels right for you is going to take time. It took me so long to get here, but all I can tell you is that the benefit of this is that once you do have acceptance for how you feel about you, fat or otherwise, it does feel a lot better, and you start honoring your body's rhythmic cycles as well as the food that you want to eat.